There is a particular kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from working too hard. It comes from watching your own life and wondering why it seems to be moving more slowly than everyone else's. Maybe you have felt it. You open social media, an old classmate has started a business, someone else just got married, another person seems completely certain about where they are going, and then there is you, still changing your mind, still questioning decisions, still carrying the uncomfortable feeling that everyone received some instruction manual you somehow missed. The strange thing is that this feeling often survives logic, because when you really look at your life, nothing is necessarily wrong. You are trying, you are learning, you are moving forward, yet somewhere in the background remains a quiet suspicion. What if I am falling behind? Carl Jung spent much of his life studying people who felt exactly this way, and his conclusion was unexpected. He believed that some people are not late. They simply develop according to a completely different timetable, not because they are more intelligent, not because they are more gifted, and certainly not because they are broken, but because the thing they are trying to build takes longer to construct. Most people begin by building a life, a career, a social identity, a role, a reputation. But some people spend years trying to answer a different question first. Who exactly is the person building all of that? And unfortunately, that question tends to slow everything down. Jung noticed something that appears again and again throughout human life. Most people adapt first. They learn what earns approval. They notice what is rewarded, what is admired, what gets accepted. And gradually, often without realizing it, they shape themselves around those expectations. Jung called this the persona. The persona is not fake. It's not a lie. In many ways, it is necessary. Every society requires some level of adaptation. Every job requires a role. Every relationship asks something from us. The problem begins when the role becomes stronger than the person wearing it. When years pass and someone can no longer tell the difference between who they are and who they have learned to be. For many people, this doesn't become obvious until much later. The career looks successful, the life appears stable, everything seems fine from the outside, and yet a strange emptiness starts appearing underneath it all, not because they failed, but because they succeeded at becoming someone they never consciously chose. The people who struggle to settle early often experience the opposite problem. They feel the mismatch immediately, sometimes painfully. They enter a career path and something feels off. They join a social group and something does not fit. They imagine a future that looks impressive on paper but leaves them strangely cold inside. And because they cannot always explain what feels wrong, they begin questioning themselves. Maybe I am indecisive. Maybe I am lazy. Maybe I am afraid of commitment. Maybe everyone else knows something I do not. But Jung would have looked at this differently. He believed some people possess a sensitivity to inner conflict that makes certain compromises almost impossible. They can tolerate discomfort. They can tolerate uncertainty. But they struggle to tolerate pretending, and that creates friction with a world that often rewards certainty more than authenticity. Imagine standing at a crossroads. Everyone around you picks a road. Some choose quickly, others choose confidently. Meanwhile, you are still standing there, not because you enjoy being stuck, not because you want to fall behind, but because something inside you keeps asking, is this actually my road? That question can cost years. From the outside, those years may look wasted. Inside, something else is happening. A slow process. An invisible process. The kind of development that rarely shows up on resumes. The kind that cannot be measured by promotions or milestones. You are learning what you cannot become. You are discovering what does not belong to you. You are separating inherited expectations from genuine desires. And unfortunately, that work often looks exactly like confusion. One of the loneliest parts of this journey is that almost nobody can see it. People understand visible effort. They understand long hours. They understand sacrifice. But internal work is different. Nobody sees the conversations happening inside your mind. Nobody sees the questions that keep returning at night. Nobody sees the years spent trying to understand yourself honestly. So, from the outside, it can appear as though nothing is happening. And eventually, you may start believing that too. You compare your timeline to everyone else. You compare your progress, your certainty, your achievements. And comparison creates a cruel illusion. It makes different journeys look identical, as if everyone started from the same place, wanted the same things, needed the same lessons, developed at the same speed. But human beings are not assembly line products. Some people spend their early years building structures. Others spend those years building foundations. The second process takes longer. And from a distance, foundations look like empty ground. Jung believed that awareness itself carries a cost. Most people think greater awareness automatically improves life. Sometimes it does, but awareness can also complicate things. Because once you see something clearly, you can no longer unsee it. Once you notice a contradiction, you cannot easily ignore it. Once you recognize emptiness beneath a goal, it becomes difficult to chase that goal with enthusiasm. This creates a strange experience. You may find yourself surrounded by people who seem genuinely excited about things that leave you feeling nothing. Status, recognition, competition, certain definitions of success. You understand why those things matter. You simply cannot force yourself to care in the same way. And that difference can make you feel disconnected, not superior, not enlightened, just different. As though everyone else received an emotional memo that somehow never reached you. This is where loneliness often becomes loud. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, the loneliness of feeling psychologically distant. You sit with friends, you attend family gatherings, you participate in conversations, yet something feels slightly out of sync, like you're listening to the same music through a different frequency. You can hear it, but you cannot fully join it. And over time, this creates a temptation. A very understandable temptation. To stop listening to yourself. To stop questioning. To stop caring about authenticity. To simply choose a version of yourself that fits somewhere. Anywhere, many people do. And for a while, it works. The friction disappears. Approval increases. Life becomes easier. But Jung warned that whatever parts of ourselves we abandon rarely disappear. They wait, quietly, patiently, sometimes for decades. Then, one day they return, not as wisdom, not as clarity, but as restlessness, bitterness, regret, a persistent feeling that something important was traded away, something essential. This is what Jung meant when he spoke about the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the collection of everything we pushed aside in order to become acceptable, the dreams we dismissed, the emotions we suppressed, the parts of ourselves we decided were inconvenient, and the more completely we reject those parts, the more strongly they tend to return later. The alternative path is slower, much slower, but it leads somewhere different. Instead of building a life around approval, you gradually build one around alignment. Instead of asking what looks successful, you begin asking what feels true. Instead of organizing your identity around expectations, you organize it around reality. Who are you when nobody is watching? What genuinely matters to you? What kind of life would still feel meaningful if nobody applauded it? Those questions become more important than appearances. And something interesting starts happening. The need to keep pace with everyone else weakens, not because you've given up, because you are finally walking towards something that belongs to you. Many people assume confidence comes from certainty. Jung often suggested something deeper. Real confidence may come from accepting uncertainty, accepting that life unfolds in stages, accepting that development cannot always be rushed, accepting that becoming yourself might take far longer than becoming successful, and understanding that those are not the same thing. There is a reason so many people describe their later years as unexpectedly liberating, not because life becomes easier, not because problems disappear, but because the pressure to become someone else finally begins to fade. The performance relaxes, the comparison softens, the endless chase slows down, and underneath all of it, a more authentic self starts emerging. Not a perfect self, not a finished self, just a real one. If you've spent years feeling behind, if your path has looked messy, if your life has unfolded more slowly than the people around you, that does not automatically mean something has gone wrong. It may mean you are engaged in a different kind of work, the kind that happens underground before anything visible appears above the surface, the kind that rarely receives applause, the kind that often feels lonely, but also the kind that has the potential to create a life that actually belongs to you. Jung believed one of the rarest achievements in human development is not success, not status, not recognition, but becoming the person you truly are. And that process has no universal schedule, no fixed deadline, no age requirement. Some people arrive early, others arrive late. What matters is not how quickly it happens. What matters is whether it happens at all. And if you're still searching, still questioning, still becoming, perhaps you are not falling behind. Perhaps you are simply in the middle of a journey that cannot be rushed.